You may have already seen this breaking news, but President Trump just signed an executive order that could lower the cost of prescriptions by as much as 553%. That's right, with this executive order, we might see drugs that usually cost $936 per refill to go all the way down to $136 per refill. That's a 553% drop. Of course, this executive order would affect the retail cost of prescriptions and, of course, Medicare Part D as well. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what's happening, what we might see or what we might not see, as well as what some of the critics are saying about this executive order. So I'm sure you probably know the President of the United States cannot set the prices for drugs by the sign of a pen. Instead, the executive order gives pharmaceutical companies 30 days to work with the Department of Health and Human Services and RFK Jr., who runs it, to bring down the prices in the United States. Because right now, the cost of prescription drugs in America is much higher than in any other developed countries like the UK or France, the European Union, Japan, etc. We pay much more than in those countries. This is because other countries don't allow the pharmaceutical companies to sell their drugs in that country if it exceeds certain prices. They have price caps. Meanwhile, there are no price caps for pharmaceutical companies in America, and the result is that drugs can cost so much more in America compared to other developed countries. So for example, Ozempic, which is one of the most widely prescribed drugs now in America, costs $936 per refill, but it's only $169 in Japan, and it's only $93 in the UK, it's $87 in Australia, and $83 in France. So the exact same drug, manufactured by the exact same company, costs way more in America in comparison to other companies. According to the executive order, 75% of the profits of pharmaceutical companies come from the US, despite the fact that the US only has 5% of the world's population. That's why Trump says America has been subsidizing other countries' drug costs. Now, technically it's not subsidizing, but in actuality, that is kind of what is happening. So if you have Medicare Part D, what does this mean for you? Well, RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, has said that this will affect Medicare Part D. But exactly how it will change Medicare Part D remains to be seen, since this is a developing situation. But I would say that if truly we can get the cost of drugs down in the United States, then it will have a positive impact on everyone who has Medicare Part D because it will lower the overall costs. So when will this happen? Well, here's the timelines that we've got so far. In the first 30 days, so in the next 30 days, there's going to be a negotiation between the Department of Health and Human Services and big pharma companies on how they can accomplish this. Their goal will be to find an equilibrium between what other countries and developed nations are paying and what we are paying for the same prescription medications, and to get what they call most favored nation pricing, which means that we would not pay more than similar other nations. Now, if nothing happens in the next 30 days, the executive order directs the Department of Health and Human Services to propose rules that impose most favored nation pricing on pharmaceutical companies. Now, most favored nation pricing is actually more extreme than matching Europe because it says you have to give us the lowest price that you offer anywhere else. So that could be lower than Europe prices. So that's some of the threat behind the executive order that gives a negotiation advantage to pharmaceutical companies. The second thing that is proposed after 30 days, if no compromises are reached, is to take aggressive measures to significantly reduce the cost of prescription drugs to American consumers and to end anti-competitive practices. So these two things give the executive order some teeth that allow Health and Human Services to negotiate with the pharmaceutical companies. It also pushes pharmaceutical companies to go to the various nations and say, you have to pay more now because we're going to have to equalize things out. That is what the executive order says. However, critics are not buying it. They are saying that the executive order holds no weight. They're also saying that President Trump attempted to do something similar during his first term, but nothing came from it. Well, we'll have to see how Big Pharma reacts to it, but if prices start to go down, we will be the first to let you know. My opinion about the situation is anything that can help to lower drug costs is positive, and hopefully it will work. Because the idea that the United States of America and you and I need to subsidize development for medications for the entire world is absurd. Everyone who benefits should be equally participating in the cost to produce and to manufacture and to do R&D on all of these medications and other solutions for health issues. So the idea that we have to subsidize that for the world, I think, is ludicrous. The other thing I think is that this time, this executive order actually has some weight and some merit. It really does give some teeth to the Health and Human Services, some ability to go and negotiate with drug companies. It also shows the world that the United States is not interested in continuing to subsidize their health care, that the entire world needs to contribute financially to research and development by paying a fair price for the prescriptions that they receive. But will it actually work? Well, I don't know. We've seen things like this before, and many times they haven't amounted to much. Usually what we have seen, and particularly from the Biden administration in the past, was that they lowered the cost of medications to seniors, but they didn't lower the actual cost of purchasing the medications. They lowered the cost to seniors by capping how much a senior could pay, by subsidizing the industry with more money, and by giving more money to Medicare Part D plans. Well, that is not a good long-term fix because the cost is still going up, and there's an underlying issue that in America we're paying way too much for prescriptions compared to other countries. So if this somehow can address that, and if this is successful in any way, it will be a major, major win, because the prices should equalize across the world, particularly across the developed world. Across similar countries, we should all be paying the same. And if somehow that is able to happen, this will be a massive win. Now, will it happen? I don't know, but I've got my fingers crossed because this could be a really, really, really big win. Now, of course, this is a developing situation, and if you want to stay up to date with all the news around this, hit subscribe, and I'll let you know how it goes. And if you're looking for ways to reduce your Medicare prescription drug costs now, so that you don't have to wait for this to actually happen, then check out this video where I go over Medicare's new prescription payment plan.